Right now you are sitting. Maybe you are lying down. There's a screen in front of you, a roof above your head, and somewhere nearby, food you did not have to chase. And some part of your brain, the deep, ancient part, feels a low hum of restlessness, a vague sense that you should be doing something, that you are forgetting something important. That feeling is not a glitch. It is a memory, not yours exactly, but your body's. The question sounds simple. What did ancient humans actually do all day? But the real answer is far stranger than you think. Because when you strip away agriculture, cities, clocks, and careers, what you find is not a brutish scramble for survival. What you find looks unsettlingly familiar. Start with the basics. For the vast majority of human history, roughly 95% of it, your ancestors were hunter-gatherers. Small nomadic bands of 20 to 50 people, moving through landscapes they knew by heart. No alarm clocks, no commutes, no deadlines. So what filled the hours? Less work than you think, far less. Anthropologist Marshall Solins spent decades studying modern hunter-gatherer societies. The Kung San of the Kalahari, Aboriginal Australians, the Hadza of Tanzania, groups whose way of life offers a window into deep history. His conclusion was so counterintuitive it rewrote textbooks. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society, not because they had abundance, but because they had enough and they knew it. The average adult in a hunter-gatherer band spent roughly 3 to 5 hours per day on subsistence activities. Hunting, gathering, preparing food, that was it. The rest of the day was theirs. Let that land for a moment, 3 to 5 hours, then stop. So what happened in those other hours? The answer, documented by researchers across dozens of field studies, is something your schedule almost never allows: rest, play, storytelling, and deep unstructured time with other people. Your ancestors rested without guilt, not napping out of exhaustion, resting as a default state. Jerome Siegel, a sleep researcher at UCLA, studied 3 pre-industrial societies, the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tsimane in Bolivia, and found that none of them had a word for insomnia. They slept when the body said sleep. They woke when light returned. Total sleep time hovered around 6.5 hours, but the quality was different. More in sync with the environment around them. In the waking rest, that looked like conversation. Long, unhurried conversation. Gossip, arguments, stories, jokes. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at Oxford has spent his career studying the social lives of primates and humans, and his research suggests that up to 65% of human social time across all cultures is spent in social talk, sharing information about people, who did what, who is reliable, who cannot be trusted. You might call it gossip. Dunbar calls it the grooming of the social fabric. It is how your ancestors maintained bonds in a group too large to physically groom one another. In other words, ancient humans talked, constantly, and it mattered. But there was something else woven into the daily rhythm that modern life has almost entirely erased: deep attention to the natural world. Your ancestors were not passively moving through their environment. They were reading it. Every bent twig, every set of tracks in the mud, every shift in wind direction was information. Anthropologist Louis Liebenberg spent years with Kalahari trackers and documented what he called creative tracking, a process where hunters build mental models, predict animal behavior, and interpret ambiguous signs into narrative. It is, he argues, one of the earliest forms of scientific reasoning. Your ancestors were not wandering. They were thinking deeply, continuously, about the world around them. That kind of attention is almost impossible to find in modern life. Your screen pulls your focus into fragments. Ancient attention was long and layered, tuned to living systems rather than digital ones. Now here is where it gets strange, because the picture that emerges from the evidence is not one of stress and scarcity. It is one of something closer to leisure, but a kind of leisure with shape, with purpose built in. Play was serious work. Children in hunter-gatherer bands were not taught through formal instruction. They learned by watching, imitating, and experimenting, with fire, with tools, with terrain. Psychologist Peter Gray at Boston College has studied the play habits of children in hunter-gatherer societies extensively and found that free, unsupervised, multi-age play was the primary vehicle for learning. Children practiced throwing. They imitated adult tasks. They told stories and invented games. No curriculum, no homework, no teacher at the front of the room. The learning happened sideways, through play, over years, until the skill was simply part of them. And the adults played too. Music appears in the archive. Theological record earlier than pottery, earlier than agriculture, earlier than most things we associate with civilization. Bone flutes found in Germany date back over 40,000 years. Percussion instruments even further. Dancing almost certainly predates written record. These were not ornamental luxuries. They were woven into daily and seasonal life, tied to ritual, to social bonding, to the marking of time. Your ancestors moved in ways your body still craves, not in the way we talk about exercise today, not as a separate slot carved out of a sedentary day, but as an integrated part of existence. Walking, bending, carrying, climbing. The musculoskeletal analysis of ancient human remains, carried out by researchers like Timothy Ryan at Penn State, consistently shows bodies built by varied, moderate, continuous movement, not marathons, not weightlifting. Just the endless physical engagement that comes from living in and with the world. Food preparation was communal and central, not a chore tucked between other obligations. If a hunt was successful, the whole band gathered. There was dividing, cooking, eating, arguing about portions, laughing, sharing. Anthropologists studying modern forager societies describe these moments as some of the most socially intense and emotionally rich of daily life. The meal was not a fuel stop, it was an event. But here is the counterintuitive twist. This life was not free of anxiety. It was not peaceful in any idealized sense. Your ancestors faced real, immediate, unpredictable threat: drought, failed hunts, predators, illness with no treatment, the death of children who were not unusual but were devastating, conflict between bands. Violence was present in prehistoric life. The osteological evidence, the skeletal trauma documented in sites from Europe to South America, makes that clear. This was not paradise. Yet the psychological architecture your ancestors built to navigate that life is the same architecture running inside you right now. Their response to uncertainty was not worry in the modern sense, abstract, future-oriented, chronic. It was acute attention followed by action followed by resolution. The stress response your body launches when you miss a deadline was designed for a lion. It was designed to peak, mobilize, and release. The chronic low-grade anxiety that defines modern life, that sustained hum of unease, is genuinely new. It is a mismatch between ancient hardware and a modern environment the hardware never anticipated. Researchers call this evolutionary mismatch. Your body is running ancient software in a world it was not written for. So think about what a typical ancient day actually looked like. A slow waking with first light. Movement out into the landscape with a small group of people you knew completely. Hours of skilled attention, tracking, gathering, noticing, reading. A rest in the heat of midday. Return to camp, shared food. Long conversation in the late afternoon. Storytelling around fire as darkness came. Sleep under open sky. Variation, yes. Hardship, yes. Days of real hunger and days of abundance. But underneath it all, a rhythm. A pace calibrated to the human body across hundreds of thousands of years of pressure. That rhythm still runs inside you. That is why solitude in nature quiets the nervous system. That is why eating with other people feels fundamentally different from eating alone. That is why your mind drifts when you sit still too long. It is looking for something to track, something to read, something to attend to. That is why stories hook you and will not let go. That is why play feels like relief. That is why fire is still hypnotic. You carry this entire ancient day inside you. Every restless afternoon, every inexplicable urge to be outside, every meal that feels better when someone else is at the table. Right now you are sitting. Some part of you is still looking for the horizon, and now you know why.